Wigfrid is a red-haired Viking warrior who excels at combat and is voiced by a band of demons playing brass. Now, don't get me wrong, Wigfrid is one of my favourite characters personality-wise. The way she refers to every creature as some form of meat, the way she has umlauts over all the O's she says, the way she breaks out of character and then casually attempts to cover it up. She's great. Instead of being a pure damage-dealing muscle character like Wolfgang, Wigfrid is intended to be somewhat of a mixture of that and a support character, as her special craftable equipment can be shared with teammates. Wigfrid's equipment is actually quite powerful. Her spear is the weakest of the two, dealing 42.5 damage, a value which is easily outshone by a tentacle spike, handbat or dark sword. Her helmets, however, are where Wigfrid truly shines. They block 80% of all incoming damage and have 750 health, dropped to 525 in Don't Starve Together. Wigfrid's battle helms are better than football helmets in terms of statistics. The only thing in comparison between the two up for debate is the crafting recipes. A football helmet costs 1 pigskin and 1 rope to craft, whereas a battle helm costs 2 gold pieces and 2 rocks. The football helmet's ingredients are easier to farm, but the battle helmet's ingredients are more reliable in my opinion. Whatever the case, battle helms are a great alternative to football helmets, and therefore having a Wigfrid present can really help improve your team's defensive capabilities. It's also worth noting that Wigfrid has a natural 25% damage absorption bonus, which stacks with her helmets, making her pretty darn close to being immortal. Additionally, as football helmets are often used into the late game due to their reliableness and the lack of late game armor items in the game, Wigfrid's helmets can also be used for a very long time. The choice between the two honestly just depends on your character selection, obviously, and whatever resources you're willing to farm or just happen to have lying around. In terms of football helmets, pigskin is collected with a 25% drop rate from pigmen, and grass is grown from grass tufts. Having a Wickerbottom on your team makes the collection process for football helmets easier, as you can grow the grass on command as well as being able to set up a large pigman farm with her summonable tentacles. On the other hand, the ingredients for Wigfrid's helmets, stone and gold, are both renewable through meteors and cave earthquakes. Additionally, meat can be traded to the Pig King for an indefinite amount of gold. So in the end, it's pretty much up to your own personal preference and character selection, in whether you'll choose football or battle helmets. Wigfrid is one of those characters who is constantly compared to another, in this case Wolfgang. Both of them are intended to fill the same role, and apparently it's not okay to have two characters that do the same thing. Wigfrid and Wolfgang both excel at one task: the slaughtering of creatures. Whether this be giant bosses or monsters whose sole purpose is to provide food, causing the end of another creature's life is, in essence, the purpose of these two characters. Wolfgang is a pure damage-dealing monster, as with a near to full stomach he can dish out an insane double damage with any weapon, which means that a weapon that deals over 50 damage normally can kill special hounds, spiders and other weak enemies in one hit, which is something that no other character can do. Wigfrid, on the other hand, only deals damage times 1.25. While this is permanent and doesn't require, say, food to activate, personally I think that Wolfgang vastly overshadows Wigfrid in single target combat, simply because double damage is more than 1 1/4. Obviously, these are just my thoughts and are not meant to be taken to heart. Wigfrid is by no means a bad character. The ability to leech health off enemies is incredibly versatile and incredibly helpful, and her support abilities make Wigfrid much more of a team-oriented character. Speaking of, Wigfrid's health and sanity leeching abilities are another topic of controversy, in big fat quotation marks, or at least the sanity part is, since health is required to survive, obviously. Whenever Wigfrid kills an enemy, she gains 25% of that enemy's attack damage as sanity and health. Wigfrid also gains small amounts of health and sanity on every second hit she lands. The health gaining part is a massive boon, as it makes Wigfrid a great character for nomadic playstyles, and saves you valuable ingredients on healing food and items. However, Wigfrid gaining sanity may be seen as a drawback, since many players believe that insanity is more desirable than sanity, due to the abundance of nightmare fuel from that state of mind. Wigfrid's sanity leeching directly opposes this idea, as staying insane becomes a somewhat difficult task as Wigfrid. Furthermore, killing shadow creatures restores sanity already, meaning that Wigfrid will gain a massive 20 sanity on average for killing a crawling horror, and an even more massive 45.5 sanity on average for killing a terrorbeak. The reason why this is so significant is because, since Wigfrid's insanity threshold is 18 points due to her lower maximum sanity, killing even just a crawling horror most of the time while at 0 sanity will immediately render you above the insanity threshold and therefore sane. Lower maximums. This is one of Wigfrid's attributes. While it's certainly less prominent and noticeable than her other downside, it's still there and it actually affects gameplay more than you might think. Wigfrid has less maximum hunger and sanity than Wilson, 120 points of each to be exact, in exchange for 50 more maximum health points, totaling in at 200. Obviously, more max health is a highly positive thing, since health literally translates to your distance from death. 200 hit points combined with a natural damage resistance and some sexy helmets makes Wigfrid quite the meat shield. Wigfrid's 120 points of max hunger mean that she doesn't get the full hunger fulfillment from high protein dishes, such as meaty stew, which when consumed gives a massive 150 calorie points. As Wigfrid only has a maximum of 120 hunger, she wastes a flat 30 hunger points when consuming a steaming pot of stew at 0 hunger. Finally, Wigfrid's 120 points of maximum sanity are slightly controversial, however. Personally, I feel that this lower maximum is a positive thing, as it's easier to slip in and out of insanity by consuming food products. Wigfrid can be 2 points away from insanity by downing 2 raw green mushrooms, which makes for an easy early Wait, hang on. Wigfrid can't eat vegetables or fruit, can she? This is Wigfrid's biggest downside, and one that she is notorious for. For carnivorous Wigfrid, oh carnivorous Wigfrid, does not allow even the smallest vegetable to near her lips, which is kind of a problem. Early game, food becomes more of an issue as Wigfrid than it would as any other character. Granted, killing things is easier as Wigfrid, and while you do start with 4 meat, that very 4 meat is only just over a day's worth of food, meaning that you will have to go out of your way to collect meat rather quickly. Vegetables and fruit aren't completely useless to Wigfrid. As with a crockpot, she can combine said fruits and veggies with meat in order to produce dishes such as meatballs or pierogi, which have great hunger and health restoring capabilities respectively. In order to successfully rush a crockpot, you will need to gather 1 gold nugget, 4 logs and 4 stones for the science machine, as well as 9 stones refined into 3 cutstone, 6 charcoal and 6 twigs in order to make the crockpot itself. Gathering these ingredients is relatively simple, however a decent amount of luck is required in order to find some gold early on. Obtaining a bird cage as soon as possible is also recommended, as this allows you to turn old meat into eggs, which can be infinitely kept fresh by feeding them back to the bird. Crafting a bird cage requires even more gold, something which any Wigfrid is always using up, so be sure to set aside 6 of your finest gold pieces. A bird cage also requires papyrus, which means venturing into a swamp in order to collect reeds. Additionally, a bird cage requires a bird trap to be crafted and baited with seeds in order to actually acquire a resident bird, so always be on the lookout for some silk. Wigfrid is a strongly disliked character. At first, this may seem like it has something to do with Wigfrid herself, but this hatred is generally more directed towards the people who actually play her. Generally, not always. Interestingly enough, Wigfrid players are notorious for stealing meat out of the communal fridge, stealing gold out of the communal chest, not bothering to make meatballs or even helmets for other players, not bothering to get their own gold, stones and sticks, and generally just being leeches. Obviously this isn't always true, but I know from public server experience and playing with friends that sometimes it is. So how could one be a better Wigfrid player? Step 1, don't steal. Pretty self-explanatory, but just don't be a leech and take things like gold, rocks or meat. Believe it or not, other players can still eat meat and they are often required to. This rule also applies to any character in any situation, but it's still a good idea to keep it in mind. Also, avoid making all the gold into helmets and spears, as gold still has other uses, in making things such as prototyping stations, lightning rods, etc. So treat helmets as a last preference in the early game to avoid shortages of gold. Step 2, make helmets for other players. This is Wigfrid's biggest attribute in a team-based setting, so make use of it. Instead of using everyone else's gold, maybe go and kill some spiders, cook the monster meat, and give it to the Pig King in exchange for some. If no one's done so already, go and gather trinkets from the graveyard and give them to the Pig King for even more gold. Other ways to pillage gold include finding trinkets in tumbleweeds, or spelunking in the caves. Other players will make great use of your helmets, as their high damage, resistance, and durability will massively increase the survivability of your team. So, thanks for watching. You've most likely noticed that I've rebranded my channel. I only did so after running some polls on Discord and Twitter to find out what you lovely people thought. My old channel design was outdated and didn't really reflect my editing style or content, so it's now gone. Please feel free to share your thoughts on the video or the channel rebrand in the comments section, it really helps me out. Also, if you want, join my dead Discord server. Please join. Anyway, thanks for watching and I guess I'll see you next time.